What if I told you the person you can't stop thinking about has already been speaking your name in rooms you've never entered? Not by accident, but because something inside them refuses to keep you hidden. Today, you'll discover the hidden psychological force that makes someone repeatedly talk about the one they truly value, even before a relationship is fully formed. Once you understand this, you'll never interpret their words the same way again. If this message is helping you understand human connection in a deeper way, take a moment to subscribe and share this video with someone who has ever wondered why certain people simply cannot stop talking about them. There are invisible patterns shaping relationships every single day, and once you learn to recognize them, you begin seeing people and yourself with entirely new eyes. Have you ever wondered why some people seem unable to stop mentioning a certain person, even when no one has asked about them? They may believe they are simply sharing a story or recalling a moment, but beneath those ordinary conversations, something much deeper is unfolding. The human mind has a remarkable tendency to reveal what the conscious self tries to organize or even conceal. When someone begins speaking about you repeatedly, it is often because your presence has settled into a place within them that logic alone cannot fully explain. The unconscious mind does not communicate through direct announcements. Instead, it expresses itself through patterns, symbols, repeated thoughts, and spontaneous words that escape into everyday conversation. Many people assume emotions remain private until someone openly confesses them. Yet the deeper layers of the psyche rarely operate with such precision. A feeling that carries genuine emotional weight creates an inner pressure, almost like water gathering behind a dam. Eventually, that pressure seeks release, not because the person intends to reveal everything, but because the psyche naturally strives for balance. Mentioning your name, recalling a memory involving you, or bringing you into unrelated discussions becomes one of the simplest ways that hidden emotional significance quietly surfaces. They may not even notice how frequently they do it, while everyone around them begins recognizing the pattern long before they do. This is why those closest to them often detect their emotional attachment first. Friends may smile knowingly each time your name appears in conversation because repetition is rarely random. The unconscious continually directs attention toward whatever has become psychologically meaningful. Whether they admire your character, feel inspired by your presence, or sense a connection they cannot yet define, their inner world keeps returning to the same point. What appears to be casual conversation is often the visible trace of an invisible transformation already taking place, revealing that your influence has reached beyond passing interest and become woven into the deeper fabric of their emotional life. Why would someone keep bringing your name into conversations with friends, family, or even casual acquaintances? At first glance, it may seem like a simple habit or an innocent coincidence, but beneath the surface lies a quieter psychological process. Human beings often speak about what occupies their inner world because language becomes the bridge between emotion and understanding. When your presence begins influencing someone at a level they cannot fully explain, they instinctively search for words, stories, and conversations that help them make sense of what they are experiencing. This is why speaking about you becomes less of a conscious decision and more of an emotional necessity. The mind naturally seeks order whenever it encounters something that profoundly affects it. An unexpected connection, a person who awakens forgotten hopes, or someone who reflects hidden parts of the self creates inner movement. That movement cannot remain isolated forever. The psyche begins organizing these experiences by giving them expression. Rather than keeping every thought locked away, the individual starts mentioning you in ordinary conversations. They may describe something you said, recall a shared moment, or compare others to you without even realizing the pattern. In doing so, they are not merely talking about another person. They are quietly exploring their own emotions through dialogue. This process serves another purpose as well. Speaking aloud transforms vague feelings into something more understandable. Thoughts that remain trapped inside often feel confusing, but once they are spoken, they begin taking shape. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to examine emotions from a different angle. The people they trust become silent mirrors, reflecting reactions that help them understand what their own heart has been trying to communicate. They may ask for advice without directly asking for it, simply by telling stories about you and observing how others respond. This explains why they often mention your name in situations where it seems unnecessary. The conversation itself is not the true destination. Their inner world is searching for clarity, and your image has become the center around which many of those reflections revolve. Long before they openly acknowledge what you mean to them, their words have already revealed that your presence is no longer passing through their thoughts. It has become part of the ongoing dialogue between their conscious mind and the deeper forces quietly shaping their emotional reality. Have you ever noticed how people rarely reveal their deepest emotions directly? Instead of saying exactly what they feel, they often search for subtle ways to measure the safety of those emotions before exposing them completely. This is why someone who has developed genuine feelings for you may begin mentioning you to trusted friends or family members. It is not always because they are seeking approval in the ordinary sense. More often, they are unconsciously looking for reassurance that what they feel is real, reasonable, and worth embracing. The human psyche naturally turns toward others when faced with emotions that feel significant enough to alter its inner balance. Strong emotional experiences can be both inspiring and unsettling. A person may wonder why your presence affects them so deeply, or why thoughts of you continue returning despite every attempt to focus elsewhere. Rather than confronting those questions alone, they quietly introduce you into conversation. They might tell a story about an interaction with you, describe your character, or casually mention something that reminded them of you. On the surface, it appears to be ordinary discussion. Beneath the surface, however, they are observing the reactions of people they trust. Every response becomes a mirror, reflecting possibilities they have not yet fully accepted within themselves. This process is deeply rooted in the human need for psychological certainty. The unconscious mind often seeks external confirmation before allowing an important feeling to become part of one's conscious identity. If friends respond warmly, if family members express curiosity, or if someone recognizes qualities they had already noticed in you, those reactions quietly strengthen their confidence. Without realizing it, they begin feeling permission to acknowledge emotions they had previously questioned or kept hidden. Yet this validation is not simply about gaining approval from others, it is about reducing inner conflict. When powerful emotions remain unspoken, they create tension between what the heart experiences and what the conscious mind believes it should feel. Speaking about you becomes a bridge between those two worlds. Every conversation allows them to organize confusion into understanding, transforming uncertainty into clarity. Long before they openly express what you mean to them, they have already begun allowing trusted voices to witness the quiet transformation taking place within their own heart, making your presence a reality that no longer exists only in silence, but also in the shared space of human connection. There comes a moment in every meaningful connection when another person no longer exists only as someone you know. They become part of the way you think, the way you interpret experiences, and even the way you understand yourself. This transformation often happens so quietly that the person experiencing it cannot identify the exact moment it began. They simply notice that your name appears in their thoughts more often, your opinions matter more than before, and your presence seems woven into the rhythm of their daily life. When this happens, speaking about you is no longer just conversation. It is evidence that you have taken a lasting place within their psychological world. Human identity is not a fixed structure. It evolves through every relationship that leaves a genuine impression. Every meaningful encounter reshapes the inner landscape of the mind, adding new perspectives, emotions, and possibilities. When someone repeatedly talks about you, it may reveal that your influence has extended beyond admiration and entered the deeper process of identity formation. Without consciously deciding it, they begin measuring experiences against the qualities they associate with you. They remember your words when making decisions, compare new situations to moments they shared with you, and find themselves wondering how you might respond to events unfolding in their own life. This is one of the quiet signs that a person has become psychologically significant. The unconscious mind preserves what contributes to personal growth or emotional meaning. Instead of treating you as a passing memory, it integrates your image into the ongoing story of who they are becoming. That is why your name emerges naturally in conversations. You have become part of their internal narrative. Whether they are discussing dreams, challenges, or ordinary events, your presence quietly accompanies those reflections because the mind now associates you with something essential rather than temporary. Others may believe they are simply talking about someone they find interesting, but the deeper reality is far more profound. Every repeated mention reveals that your influence extends beyond external attraction. You have become a reference point within their emotional life, a symbol connected to hope, understanding, or transformation. Long before love is openly declared, the psyche often reveals its direction through these subtle patterns. The person may not yet realize how deeply you have become intertwined with their evolving sense of self, but their conversations already reveal what their unconscious has accepted. Your presence is no longer outside their inner world. It has quietly become part of the person they are growing into. Have you ever tried to keep an important thought to yourself only to find it slipping into conversation without intention? This is one of the quiet mysteries of the human mind. Emotions that carry little significance fade quickly into the background, but emotions charged with genuine meaning rarely remain contained. They search for expression because the psyche naturally seeks release from the tension created by powerful inner experiences. When someone continually talks about you, it may be a sign that their emotional energy has become too significant to remain locked in silence. Rather than disappearing, it begins finding pathways into words, memories, and everyday conversations. The unconscious mind does not distinguish sharply between thought and expression. Once someone becomes emotionally important, the mind repeatedly returns to that person, strengthening the emotional connection each time. This repetition generates psychological energy that gradually builds beneath conscious awareness. The more often they think about you, the more difficult it becomes to keep those thoughts isolated. Eventually, your name appears in stories that seem unrelated, your qualities become examples in discussions, and memories involving you surface naturally during ordinary moments. They may believe these are random occurrences, yet they are witnessing the unconscious quietly releasing what it has been holding. This emotional energy seeks expression because every meaningful relationship awakens something larger than attraction alone. It stirs hope, curiosity, vulnerability, admiration, and sometimes even fear. Such emotions are difficult to organize internally without some external outlet. Conversation becomes that outlet. Speaking about you allows the mind to reduce emotional pressure while continuing to explore what your presence truly means. Every mention of your name is like opening a small window through which the hidden world of the heart briefly becomes visible. People often misunderstand these moments, believing someone talks about another person simply because they are memorable or entertaining, yet genuine emotional repetition usually reflects something far deeper. The psyche continues returning to whatever carries unresolved meaning or profound significance. That is why your presence echoes through their conversations long before they openly acknowledge the feelings themselves. Their words reveal what their conscious mind has not fully admitted. The emotional energy surrounding your connection has already begun shaping their inner world, and because energy naturally seeks movement, it finds its way into speech. In that quiet pattern of repeated conversations, the invisible becomes visible, revealing that what lives deeply within the heart rarely remains hidden forever. Why would someone spend time trying to describe you to other people instead of simply telling you how they feel? The answer often lies in the limits of language itself. There are moments when an emotion becomes so complex that the conscious mind cannot easily translate it into direct words. The heart senses something meaningful, yet the intellect struggles to define it. In those moments, people often begin speaking about the person who awakened those feelings, hoping that through stories, memories, and descriptions, they can express what remains impossible to confess openly. They are not merely talking about you. They are attempting to communicate an inner experience that has no perfect vocabulary. The unconscious mind speaks through symbols, emotions, and images rather than logical explanations. When someone has been deeply affected by your presence, they may not understand exactly why they feel different around you. They only know that something has shifted. Perhaps they feel unusually calm when thinking of you, unexpectedly hopeful after meeting you, or strangely inspired by your character. These experiences are difficult to summarize in a single sentence. Instead, they begin describing your kindness, your confidence, your wisdom, or even small details others might overlook. Each description becomes an indirect attempt to express the emotional impact you have made upon their inner world. This is why conversations about you often contain more than facts. They carry feeling beneath every word. They may tell someone how you handled a difficult situation, repeat something thoughtful you once said, or smile while recalling an ordinary moment that seemed insignificant to everyone else. What they are really communicating is not the event itself, but the transformation that event created within them. The story becomes a container for emotions too subtle to explain directly. Those listening may think they are simply hearing about an interesting person, but the unconscious purpose is much deeper. By describing you, the individual is giving shape to emotions that have not yet become conscious enough to express openly. Every conversation becomes a quiet translation of the heart's hidden language into words the mind can manage. Before they ever gather the courage to reveal their feelings directly, they have already been revealing them indirectly through every story they tell, every quality they admire, and every moment they choose to remember. Their descriptions are not merely about who you are, they are reflections of what your presence has awakened inside them, revealing that some emotions first learn to speak through stories long before they learn to speak through confession. Have you ever noticed that some names seem to appear again and again in a person's conversations, almost as though they cannot help bringing that individual into every discussion? At first, it may seem like coincidence, yet the unconscious mind rarely repeats something without purpose. Repetition is one of its oldest languages. What the conscious mind considers ordinary, the deeper psyche often recognizes as profoundly meaningful. When someone repeatedly mentions you without being prompted, it can indicate that your presence has become emotionally significant within their inner world. The frequency itself becomes more revealing than the words they actually speak. The unconscious is constantly directing attention toward whatever it considers unfinished, valuable, or transformative. It does this because the human mind is designed to revisit experiences that carry emotional importance. Every time they think about you, the emotional association becomes slightly stronger, creating pathways that make your image easier to recall in future moments. Over time, mentioning you becomes almost automatic. They are not forcing themselves to speak your name. Their inner world has simply organized itself around the influence you have had upon it. This explains why your name may appear in conversations that seem unrelated. They could be discussing personal goals, relationships, memories, or even everyday experiences, and somehow you become part of the dialogue. To outside observers, it may appear unusual, but psychologically it reflects a simple truth. The mind naturally returns to what it values. Just as a meaningful memory resurfaces unexpectedly throughout life, a person who has become emotionally important continues appearing in thought and conversation without deliberate effort. Repetition also reveals consistency rather than impulse. A passing attraction fades quickly and is replaced by new interests. Genuine emotional significance behaves differently. It continues returning over days, weeks, or even months because it has settled into the deeper layers of the psyche. Friends and family often recognize this before the individual does. They notice that your name appears with surprising regularity, even when no one else has mentioned you first. Those repeated references quietly reveal that your presence has become more than a pleasant memory. It has become part of the emotional structure through which they interpret their experiences. This does not guarantee a particular outcome or prove that love will inevitably follow. Human emotions are complex, and repeated conversation alone cannot determine someone's intentions or future actions, yet it can indicate that you occupy a meaningful place in their psychological landscape. Before the heart finds the courage to speak openly, the unconscious often speaks first through repetition. Long before direct confession becomes possible, the quiet rhythm of repeated conversations has already revealed where the deepest attention has chosen to remain. There is a quiet transformation that occurs whenever two people leave a lasting impression on one another. It is rarely dramatic, and it almost never announces itself with certainty. Instead, it unfolds beneath the surface, where the unconscious slowly reshapes perception, emotion, and identity. When someone continually speaks about you, remembers small details others would forget, or naturally brings your name into conversations, it may suggest that your presence has become woven into their inner world. Yet the deepest meaning is not simply that they think about you, it is that genuine human connection has the power to change both people, often long before either fully understands what is happening. Every meaningful relationship acts like a mirror. It reflects hidden qualities, unresolved fears, forgotten dreams, and unrealized potential. Sometimes another person enters your life and awakens strengths you never recognized within yourself. At other times, they reveal wounds that had remained buried beneath years of distraction. This process is rarely comfortable, but it is often transformative. The same may be happening within the person who keeps speaking about you. Your presence may have become connected to growth, hope, courage, or emotional awakening. Each conversation about you is not merely a recollection of another individual, it is a reflection of the changes taking place within their own psyche. What makes this process remarkable is that transformation rarely moves in only one direction. As they are changed by knowing you, you are also changed by existing within their emotional world. Whether you realize it or not, every authentic connection leaves traces on both lives. You begin seeing yourself through another perspective, questioning old assumptions, discovering new possibilities, and recognizing qualities that remained hidden until someone else noticed them. This mutual influence is one of the deepest characteristics of meaningful relationships. Neither person remains exactly as they were before the connection began. This is why conversations about you may continue even when nothing outwardly seems to be happening. The visible relationship may still appear uncertain, yet the invisible relationship within the psyche continues developing. The unconscious does not measure significance by labels or timing. It measures significance by transformation. If someone repeatedly returns to thoughts of you, speaks your name with genuine warmth, or finds reasons to include you in their stories, it may indicate that your connection has become part of an ongoing inner evolution rather than a passing emotional moment. At the same time, it is important to remember that meaningful psychological patterns are not guarantees of a specific future. A person can be deeply influenced by someone without a relationship necessarily developing in the way either person expects. Human emotions, circumstances, and choices all shape what happens next. What these quiet patterns do suggest is that authentic connection changes people from the inside first. Long before the outer world reveals where two paths may lead, the inner world has already begun its silent work, leaving both lives marked by an encounter that neither heart will experience in quite the same way again. As we reach the end of this journey, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The deepest movements of the human heart rarely begin with grand declarations. They begin in silence, in repeated thoughts, in unexpected memories, and in conversations where one name continues to appear without force or intention. The unconscious often reveals what the conscious mind is still trying to understand. That is why someone may keep telling others about you long before they ever find the courage to tell you. But there is an important distinction to remember. These patterns are not proof of destiny, nor are they guarantees of a particular outcome. They are psychological signals that can suggest emotional significance, not certainty. Genuine connection is built not only on inner feelings but also on honest communication, mutual respect, and the choices two people make over time. The invisible world of the psyche may open the door, but it is conscious action that determines whether two lives truly walk through it together. Perhaps the greater lesson is not to spend every moment wondering who is speaking your name. Instead, ask yourself a deeper question. What kind of presence are you becoming in the lives of others? Are you someone who awakens peace instead of confusion, courage instead of fear, authenticity instead of pretense? Because the people who leave the deepest imprint are rarely those who seek attention. They are those whose character quietly transforms the inner world of everyone fortunate enough to know them. If someone truly carries you within their thoughts, their actions will eventually speak with greater clarity than their conversations ever could. And if that moment has not yet arrived, let patience become your greatest strength. The unconscious moves in its own time, but life asks us to remain grounded in reality, wisdom, and self-respect while waiting for truth to reveal itself. So continue becoming the person whose presence inspires growth, whose words bring understanding, and whose character remains unforgettable. Whether your name is being spoken in distant conversations or held quietly within someone's heart, the most powerful path is to keep evolving into your most authentic self. In the end, the strongest connections are not sustained by mystery alone, but by two people who are transformed by truth, choose each other freely, and have the courage to bring what was once hidden into the light.